Hey, what's going on, everybody? Boilon here, and welcome back to another video on Lord of the Rings Home. Now, after the last video, there's been some encouraging comments, especially when we were doing things like, I guess it's a quasi-tier list that I did. But today I want to do something a little bit different. Now, I know there's not always a ton of things to talk about in this game, but I wanted to go over all of the healer characters that are in the game and kind of rank and why I think some of them are better than others and characters that you should be thinking about. Healers are very important in any game like this. Any turn-based, any RPG, you need a healer for all sorts of different content. So there's actually not that many of them. So I want to go through all of them pretty much and why they're good and why they're not so good, and the ones that maybe you should be focusing on building to use for, who knows, even including upcoming raid content, you might need to use them. So if you're ready to go, everybody, let's boil this down. Now, normally, I would start this off with a good one, but what I'm actually going to do is I want to give an honorable mention to somebody who is not specifically a healer, but can do healing things. And he was one of the top characters on my top 10 best characters of Lord of the Rings. And so he's not a true healer, but I need to stress this a little bit, because if you're building an Isengard team and if you're there's another healer on the Isengard team, but specifically it's because of his leader ability that it contributes to a lot of healing on the squad when you're using the Isengard characters, because he heals everyone for 2.5% of their max health, not his max health, but their max health, every time a Bane is applied by an Isengard orc. Now, this can really add up. And so while he's not, this is why I'm starting with him, because he's not specifically a healer, but this leader ability is what makes him able to heal passively. Now, the rest of the characters on this list, though, are going to be characters who are strictly healers, who that is their primary function. So let's get started with none, and we're going to be going from, in my opinion, what's kind of the worst to the best. And one of the characters that I want to start with is a character who I unlocked recently, who I have experience using in the beta, is Uzhan. I believe his old name was Mordor Taskmaster. You might even see that name in the campaign missions. His healing comes from this ability, Forced March. Now, this was changed. You may actually recognize this if you're playing the campaign missions, because they have the old beta versions of the characters. So he's for the Mordor team, and this skill got, I almost want to say got nerfed. It used to have a haste component. So there is very few characters, if any, right now that have haste as part of their kit, but he used to. So the difference, though, is that his haste, the way that his haste worked in the beta, was that he would use this. It would haste a handful of characters, but then after they took their turn, it would turn that haste into a speed down. And so that was a little bit problematic. Maybe that's why they got rid of it. It was like basically that you would get faster now, but then you would get slower later, hence the term Forced March. And so what I don't like about CG and Lord of the Rings right now is that they've been updating these characters' kits, but they're keeping the name, and often the name was implied based on what it formerly did, and so they haven't really done anything about that. That being said, he does heal all allies, regardless of if they're Shadow or not, and that's really good for a level 1 heal skill, because usually that's pretty rare. And it does give concentration for one turn to all squad members, regardless of who they are. Problem is that it is still kind of a bit of a high cooldown ability. Even at level 2, it does get reduced to 5, which is fine. And, actually it's not that bad overall, and the concentration does go up to 2. This actually is really important for the Mordor team more broadly, because they do rely on focus a lot to land debuffs, and God, I forget the guy who chucks the grenades with the burns. That's really important. And apparently his focus is quite low, so this is super important to have. Nonetheless, more broadly, I'm not a big fan of his kit. He doesn't do a ton of things. He does like an assist thing on his special, but it doesn't do damage other than him calling in someone to do damage, and it just doesn't do enough for me. I do like that his basic has a chance to apply slow, but you have to get it all the way to level 6 to always inflict a slow. I know that speed mechanics are very rare, though, to have in the game, so this guy's not terrible, but he is kind of a bit further, I think. His unlock is, where is it? Shadow 3-5, hard. Not super far, but, you know, it's not that early either, so he's not easily available. And the Mordor team is in a weird spot right now. It's not something I'd personally recommend. So that's Uzhan of the Mordor team. Next up, this is not a top 10 because there's not even 10 of them, is going to be Eldred. Now, Eldred is super squishy. He is, however, part of that Rohan team, which is very popular right now, specifically the Rohan 3, which I've talked about in the previous video, which was Eowyn, Eothane, and Eomer. So you would think that he would do very well. He's got healing and honestly on every ability. He gives burst healing on a low cooldown here with some stacks of regeneration when you upgrade it. And then he does a heal all squad members here as well. It's on a cooldown of 6 though. Actually, it does go up to... oh no, it's still 6. It doesn't get dropped down. You can turn 2 this rather than turn 3, or maybe turn 1 this, rather than what it is right now. I don't really use him, so I don't really know. But he's just super squishy. His stats are not super amazing. And from the people that I have heard who has used him, have kind of said something similar as that he's probably not worth building now, but I wanted to raise him anyways. And the big problem is that he's not really available free to play. I guess he is, you know, if you want to spend your free to play gems on him, but you'd have to spend about 450 gems to unlock them this way, or you can buy, I believe it was 10 shards for 275 if you want to get a little bit of a discount. So unless you get lucky, Eldred unfortunately is not easy to obtain, and he is not one of the best either. Now going up the list, next is going to be Dunhar. Now he's going to be really important to run alongside Ugluk in the Isengard Orc team. You're basically going to have him. So he is, even though he's lower down on the list, it's just that the shadow characters don't have a lot of healers and they're in a bit of a weird spot. Dunhar is very essential, honestly. Between him and Ugluk, like, you just can't run an Isengard team without them. You have to have them on the list. So his healing, though, comes from his ability Cruel Medicine, and it's just not as good compared... A lot of the light characters have so much better healing. It's really unfortunate, actually. So this only heals, I believe, only one other person. Yeah, it says heal the most wounded squad member for that, and actually, in fact, it's only one person. It heals one person, and that's it. Now, it does inflict weaken on other enemies, which is, you know, pretty great. Having that damage reduction is super good, and having it on 2 additional enemies is really, or 2 random enemies is nice, and that's also going to trigger, obviously, Ugluk's passive. So you're actually getting more healing out of Ugluk's passive than you are leader ability than you are this ability, which is kind of sad because he is designed to be the healer on the team, but nothing that he does other than on the special 2 here on the Cruel Medicine skill is the only thing that does direct healing. So a little bit unfortunate there, but you don't really need it, I guess, if you're running a full Isengard team, I suppose, because they're just going to be chucking out so many Banes. You should be healing quite frequently from that. So maybe Ugluk deserved to be in this spot rather than Dunhar, but let me know in the comments down below. Now, coming up next, you're probably not going to be surprised about this, is going to be Pippin. Now, Pippin is one of the first available characters for the light side healing. I've already talked about this character, though, in the previous video, so I don't want to go into too far detail, rather. But you do want to make sure that if you do get him and you're raising him up, that you do get him to the healing skill level 3, where you can heal all squad members. This is super important. He is very easily farmable, though, because you can find him in Guild 1.5, which is accessible, honestly, like, by level 15, 20, I don't remember when these unlock, but it's very early on in the game. So he is very easy to unlock. You can probably get him unlocked in the first couple of days, honestly. And I would probably take him to about 3-star, but you may not need him necessarily too far into the game, and you can drop him when you get the chance. That being said, I did take him to about level 40, gear 5. For what it's worth. We're going to be talking about someone who's a little bit better and who might be better worth your resources, who I should have brought up in the previous video, but I didn't. And if I can find them where I should, there we go. Neromiri. So this was in my video in some of the comments as well, comparing Neromiri and Pippin, and I want to do this because Neromiri is a character that you're going to want to have sharded up to at least 5-star for the Elrond unlock. Whether or not you got it this time around or not, you know, you might be able to get it around the second time, so it's worth doing. And as a new player, I think Neromiri is a pretty decent healer, and now that I think of it, you know, I'd probably recommend Neromiri over Pippin, because getting Neromiri, long name, is available in Guild 2.1. I don't think that's much further than where Pippin is. I don't think this is a very hard node to clear. So I think that you can probably get this on the 3-star and start farming this ASAP. It's double dipping, honestly, so that's probably the biggest reason why you would want to use Neromiri. It's double dipping as a healer and double dipping for the Elrond unlock. Their heal skill, though, primarily is the Friend of the Forest skill. It does also give additional energy or stamina to elf allies. So if you are using that elf team early on, Neromiri is going to be pretty important. It also adds up like flat healing every level up, so that's not bad either. Up to level... I don't know if you'll be taking Neromiri that high, but nonetheless, you get like a solid improvement in the healing after every skill, which is really nice. And it starts with a heal all at the beginning, unlike Pippin, who doesn't get that until level 3. There's also some additional effects as well. I meant to click on this one anyway. Some cleansing, banes of squad members, and some chances to gain protection. Protection is a very important skill because it increases your armor, aka your damage reduction, more or less, by 25%, which is really, really good. And it also actually lowers at level... Now, I haven't leveled them up too much, but, you know, getting this at level 5, this is every 2 turns, and that's really, really quick. So it could be a really good character. Haven't really put too much investment into it, but if I had to do things again, I would do it on Neromiri over Pippin. So there you are. Now, coming up next is going to be one character who I don't have unlocked, but I do have experience using in the beta, is Chef Kraska, aka Goblin Chef. Now, the biggest issue with this character is he's not available until Hard Shadow 4.9. In the beta, he was one of the first characters that you would unlock, and he was essentially your shadow healer. He was quite good. He still kind of is. Now, the goblins, if you're not familiar with them, their whole point is to die. Especially with Great Goblin, their point is to die, which sucks for campaigns because if they die, you don't get the 3-star. So not super great for campaigns, but there may be some future use for them. The reason why they're so high, though, is that not only are goblins fast characters, but this is on a very short cooldown, and actually is one of the few skills that are healing-based and also grants protection. Now, protection is a pretty rare buff. You know, armor is increased by 50... Didn't Neromiri say 25%? Anyways, so grants protection to random goblin squad members. By the bottom, it gives it to like almost all of the goblin squad members. It can also grant protection to non-goblin shadow allies. And the reason why this probably is because back in the day in the beta, you were started off with, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you had some Isengard orcs, you had Chef Kraska, and you had one of the Nazgul, actually, which you got for free. And so there was a lot of synergy, which was just shadow-based, and not specifically any characters or any team in mind. So, very low cooldown, goblins are very fast, and it's just unfortunate that they're not available early. Otherwise, it would be a very valid character to be using in the Shadow campaign as a healer. I don't know why they changed things. Anyways, moving on. We have 3 more characters to cover, and the next one is going to be Fili. Now, Fili, aka I call him the Dwarf Bard because he's got the violin there. Very good character. Fili and Kili are very good, and even though I don't have him unlocked yet, and that's mainly because my shadow team is lacking, it is very, very strong. Honestly, there are campaign levels where you get a chance to use Fili in battle, and honestly, he is really good. His healing skill is really nice. Not only does it start as a heal all squad members from the start, but it does more if you have Kili on the field. It also grants some buffs to Thorin's company, fortitude to all dwarf squad members, for example, and just his kit is pretty good. He does do a decent amount of damage. He gives expose on his special one, which are on low cooldowns. Most of these things are on pretty low cooldown, which is not too bad. And he does do a little bit of healing on his basic. So heal the most wounded squad member for 5% of this character's max health, goes up to 10% at level 6. And he grants all squad members block chance. That's interesting. So dwarves are supposed to be sturdy, and I think that when there's more dwarves or more Thorin's company, I think that this is actually going to be a really powerful duo team, or even, beyond, because there's only 2 right now. There's Fro. I don't know what's going on with Fro. I don't know what team Fro is going to be on. I don't think it's going to be on Thorin's company or anything like this. Otherwise, they would have already done it. Nonetheless, the dwarves are something that you're going to want to look out for in the near future. I am actually shard farming Kili. I will shard farm Fili as soon as I'm able to clear that node. My shadow team just sucks right now. Coming in at number 2 is Halberd. Now, you're probably not surprised about this because Halberd was pretty highly ranked on my other video, so I probably don't need to explain this too much. He's got some of the... He actually has pretty much the highest hit points in the game. He has the highest hit points in the game for a healer. And healing is based on their max health. So he's going to be healing a crap ton. By the time you get to level 5, this heals a lot. But you do need it to be about level 3, where you get to heal 4 characters. And then I guess you can heal all of them, including any summons, by level 6 as well. He does double as a tank. He has the leader ability for the rangers. He's honestly, he's got a lot of stuff going for him. But he is hard to unlock. As you can see, I don't even have him unlocked because he's from the challenge store. I'm stupid and I went for bulk first. I regret that a lot. And hopefully I can help people by letting them know how good Halberd is and how flexible he is as well. You know, he doesn't have to be in his ranger team. Honestly, he's a good drag and drop character that you can probably use in just about any combination of characters, especially for campaigns. Great healer, lots of hit points, probably won't die that early. So there you go. Halberd, he is second from the top, and I don't even know why I'm even talking about this, but you know, you're probably not surprised. Don't need to go into big detail. Of course, Elrond's going to be on this list because he's a healer. That's it. His heal is pretty broken, in my opinion. This is available essentially every other turn, because if he does not revive with this skill, he starts at 2 out of 4, which means he only needs to take 2 more turns to do it again, and it does heal quite a bit. So for example, my Vilya's Light does about 2,300 hit points to everyone. If there's no characters, well, it would heal the same anyways, but he has more energy coming back to him if he doesn't revive a character. So yes, really amazing character. He grants regenerations as well on his basic. He could actually give a 2-turn regeneration if I had this upgraded a little bit further. So he's just got a lot of things going for him. I don't need to explain it. He honestly has a crap ton of stuff on his kit. So, you know, if you want to read about Elrond, check out any of my other videos that discuss him. Don't need to go into too much detail. And I know that not a lot of people are going to have him either, which is why I'm not spending a ton of time on him. So there you are. That's basically all of the healers that exist in this game. Unfortunately, it's very light heavy. We're expected to maybe get the Haradrim Sage, who is another shadow healer, soon, and we'll have a chance to maybe talk about them if that comes. I hope that because we're over a week on now from Elrond, that hopefully we'll have some more information about character releases coming soon, or rather than later. Yeah, I didn't finish that properly. Anyways, that's the end of this video, and maybe we'll get some more videos like this. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And of course, until next time, stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you all later. Boilon signing out.